Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's Government Operations and Fiscal Policy Committee work session. We have two items on the agenda today. We have expedited Bill 29-21 contracts and procurement, minority-owned businesses, sunset date amendments, and that will be followed by spending affordability guidelines for the FY23 capital budget and FY23 to 28 capital improvements program. It is obviously very clear that these two items are very important as we, of course, navigate this pandemic and as we continue to do our work to build the capacity in our county to continue to make it vibrant in terms of economic development, infrastructure, and public facilities. So for our first item, I believe that we should have Mr. Ash Shetty who is the Director of Procurement, as well as Ms. Grace Deno from the Office of Procurement. The only thing I will say is that for this first item, the Bill 29-21, this is to extend the sunset provision on the minority-owned business purchasing program to December 2023. This sunset date was previously extended in 2019 under Bill 15-19. And that also set the deadline for a disparity study that was to be done by July 1st of 2021. But because not enough funds were available for the required disparity study to provide update data to the previous 2014 study, this is, of course, why we are here. It's also important to remember that this council actually appropriated $700,000 to conduct a disparity study, which is necessary to update the data on minority-owned businesses. And this we did on July 20th, 2021. We have to have that data. It is obviously connected to this particular program, and we on the council, as we have done previously, initiated the adoption of these funds because we feel that it is really important. Obviously, of course, especially when we start looking at the census results and we look at many studies that have been published on the demographic profile of our business community, we know that this is a very entrepreneurial county. And we also know that people of color, immigrants are very entrepreneurial and also are represented in very high numbers when it comes to businesses. And so we want to make sure that the county, in terms of its procurement, is getting the appropriate access to all businesses because we believe that that is very important and it helps us do our work much better. So with that, unless there are any opening comments from my colleagues, I don't see any waiting. I will turn it over to Mr. Drummer to walk us through the packet, and then we can engage in a conversation as well.
Good morning. This bill, as the chair just explained, would extend the sunset date for the MFD program. That's a program that creates a preference for certain businesses owned by people who are, I guess it's not a great term, considered minority, female, or disabled-owned businesses. It's really disadvantaged business, people who are members of, I guess, disadvantaged groups. In fact, it's a voluntary affirmative action plan to remedy past discrimination against people of certain groups who have historically been discriminated against. And it's an attempt in county contracting to try and remedy the past discrimination and level the field. That's why it has a sunset date. It's supposed to eventually go away when it's not needed. It's something the county has been doing for a while. And periodically, you need to take a look and see what's going on out there in the relevant marketplace where the county is doing business. And that's what the disparity study would be. It's a little later than we expected, but it has been authorized, it has been funded by a special appropriation that the council approved for $700,000 back in July. And it's also something that it's been traditionally handled by the county attorney's office because there's a large legal component to it. And there is an RFP that I believe has been drafted and is with the Office of Procurement now. They're going over the final review, and it should be issued soon, and we should have a consultant on board. The county attorney's office has also identified a legal consultant to help oversee the study and make sure that it meets the legal requirements that have been established by the federal courts, starting with the Supreme Court back in 1989 and all the federal courts since. So that's what this bill is about. It would give the extension for 2 years with the thought that the study will be done before then, and the council could then make a decision as to whether or not just whether or not the program should be extended, but if extended, which groups should continue to get the preference. Our plan is based on the statistics for the percentage of dollars that the county contracts go towards certain groups, and compares it to their availability in the marketplace. In other words, if there's 10% of certain types of construction contracts are going to Black-owned businesses, and they represent 20% of the market, then you're underutilizing them. And that's what this program is an attempt to level the playing field. If they conclude for any group that in any particular industry that it's the other way around, that they're being overutilized, then that group will not get a preference for that year. And each year the CAO goes through and makes an analysis based on our contracting data and the results of the study. And the last study we did was in 2014, so the numbers are a little old. And that's why we're updating. And as you said, Mr. Shetty and Ms. Deno are here from the Office of Procurement to respond to any questions about the program.
Thank you so much, Mr. Drummer. Anything you'd like to add, Mr. Shetty and Ms. Deno? Oh, here you did.
Sorry, I realized this time. Good morning, everybody. It's good to see you. It's good to be here. No, I have nothing to add in terms of context for this sunset extension. Mr. Drummer covered every aspect of it.
Okay. Same with you, Ms. Denon.
No, I don't have anything to add, and I'm confirming that the drafted RFP is with the procurement specialist in procurement.
Thank you. I appreciate that context. One thing that I would add is that it occurs to me that, of course, as we have been working methodically through our racial equity and social justice law, it is going to be important to keep in mind these types of programs through the lens of the fact that unless we also do whatever we can to provide technical assistance and access to opportunities to many of our minority, female-owned, disabled-owned business, I worry that sometimes we kind of set things up in a way that we infer conclusions regarding overrepresentation or lack of participation. But oftentimes the feedback that I hear is that, especially for these businesses, sometimes it has a lot to do with just feeling like there isn't an entry point, and also difficulty sometimes, of course, getting started, et cetera. And so I think that's really important for us to constantly highlight the various components that we have embedded in county government to assist with technical assistance and with information, et cetera, because we do have, as I said earlier, such an extraordinary entrepreneurial spirit in the county, and we need to do everything to provide that access. So I just want to make that comment as well, because I feel like sometimes, we might look at the studies, as a matter of fact, and I'm not really sure that it truly reflects what's happening on the ground or the potential that we have.